Swirls, swirls, swirls. I find them everywhere. To think that they don't mean anything, one has not looked hard enough. And the same goes for the eye symbol. When I played Twilight Princess for the first time, I was amazed about the graphics of the game. The waiting for the game was for sure worth it. The game had a dark backstory. Not as dark as depressive as Majora's Mask, but good enough to keep you interested. Playing with the Wiimote at the time wasn't all that difficult, even though a lot of people didn't really like to play the game that way. I found it a really good experience though. Now, I want to dive into this game together with its temples, one by one, just like I did with the other games. But this video is more about my ideas about the whole game, with some theories linked together that I will focus on in some other videos as well. The first thing I would like to talk about are the interlopers. These dark entities wanted to invade the sacred realm, a holy place that was worshipped by everyone, as that was the place where the three goddesses left to the heavens. The sacred realm, guarding the Triforce, was indeed invaded by these creatures, and so these beings created the helmet known as the Fused Shadow, and they even managed to make more of them, but as far as we know, one survived throughout the ages. As Hyrule was about to be lost by evil wrongdoers, greedy magical beings that wanted nothing but power, the three goddesses intervened by ordering 3 of the 4 light spirits to stop them and seal the Fused Shadow away together with the interlopers. These interlopers eventually became the Twilight, as Zant, the one causing all the trouble in Twilight Princess, told us that they were once locked away in the cage that is called the Twilight Realm. A dark, twisted realm, which really looks like the opposite version of Hyrule, light and dark. Now to me, these crazy magical interlopers, once upon a time, used to be the Gerudo tribe that helped Ganondorf, the evil demon king, to conquer Hyrule. Now, I know what you might go to say now, that the Gerudo escaped the desert and coincidentally found another part of the desert and lived there, which eventually became the Gerudo from Four Swords Adventures. However, I always believed that there was more going on. Some of the Gerudo escaped, and the Gerudo did in fact have the capabilities to do evil magic, as we saw that with Kume and Kotake, and the ones that had chosen the path of evil were eventually stopped, brought over to the Arbiter grounds, a large Colosseum-based building acting like a large sandy prison, that was used to bring justice to the ones causing harm to the innocent lives of the world. There, they were being punished for their sins, as you can clearly see Ganon's symbolism on the walls of this temple, with the 2 large swords that Ganon used to have, and some might think this is in fact Star-Lord, but I never believed that, even though it was the boss of the temple. Some of the Gerudo died, turning into the ghosts of the temple, together with Hylian knights that once fought against the Gerudo. As the Arbiter grounds was built on top the once sacred hideout called the Spirit Temple, as you can see this by the Gerudo Naga statues around the temple. The Hylians kept the statues around, as they might have believed that separating the culture from the people does not change anything, as there is also good Gerudo people clearly seen by one of the sages of Ocarina of Time, Naboru. Here, the Prison Realm, or the Cage Realm if you will, was created as a mirror, a doorway used in ancient religions throughout the world in real life as the prison of ghosts or demons. This is where the idea comes from when it comes down to breaking the mirror means bad luck, because you open the doorway to the spirit realm, but over the course of the centuries, this has changed to simple superstition. Eventually the prison was used to send all the interlopers to this realm, simply to get rid of them. A very cruel punishment if you ask me, and what to me is even stranger, is that not even the goddesses intervened with this punishment at all, as if this was all supposed to happen by some unseen force. After sending all the interlopers back to where they belonged, the Twilight Realm, years passed by. Slowly, the interlopers with their powerful magic started to fuse with the Twilight Realm. They created their own monarchy, with Midna, the Twilight Princess, being the one leading the Twilight race. Now why I think I'm right about the Twilight being Gerudo is simply because that Midna is a female lead character which resembles Zelda. So Zelda being the Princess of the Light, and Midna being the Princess of the Dark. Also, Zend is the evil one in the game, and if you look closely, he has somewhat reddish hair and has the gerudo symbol on his wardrobe. Now this could mean two things. Or the symbol means that he is now in alliance with Ganondorf, the evil Gerudo Demon King, or he's descended from the Gerudo, and this is the Twilight version of the Gerudo symbol. Honestly, I think it's both. But after this evolvement that took 100 years, as Twilight Princess was 100 years later after Ocarina of Time, Ganondorf himself, the evil king, was eventually the one to be punished, but not for imprisonment, but to death. As the Arbiter Grounds was built within the 100 years, like some kind of ritualistic way, which is not uncommon in the Zelda lore, like the Shadow Temple of Ocarina of Time having torture devices. This was all done in order to pretty much do one thing. To kill the Dark Demon King that wanted to destroy the world. As I said before in my older videos, a lot of the Legend of Zelda games are inspired by different kinds of religious ideas and rituals. The whole building created for that one specific thing is not uncommon in real life when it comes down to traditions. Many people around the globe practice all kinds of traditions, and it might take months or even years to get fully prepared to do what they want to do. So for some kind of people in a video game to build a large structure to do just one thing, but an important one, is not weird to me at all. But right after the ritualistic execution was about to happen, the hand of Ganondorf started to glow. It was the Triforce of Power, the one Triforce piece that was not supposed to be given to him. This is where I believe the goddesses intervened, but not for the light, but for the dark side. Why? Well, when Ganondorf frees himself from his imprisonment and kills one of the sages, the Water Sage to be precise, there was only one way for the sages as a means of desperation to get rid of the King of Thieves, to activate the mirror and throw him in the Twilight Realm. This allowed Ganondorf, by feeling the hate of Zend, that failed to be the one ruling over the Twilight Realm and not Midna, to eventually corrupt Zend and use him as a pawn to take over both realms, the realm of light and darkness. Now this would be an act of evil if the goddesses are behind the activation of the Triforce of Power. However, it might also be that they did this for Link and Midna to meet each other, to eventually start the events of what is called Twilight Princess. Because think about this, this would not have happened if the Triforce helped Ganondorf, because otherwise he would have died on the spot there. The mirror would have not been activated for the sages to throw him in there. All this sounds like a greater plan to me. Twilight Princess was supposed to be Wind Waker 2, until that was changed, because Nintendo was scared that the cel shading they used for Wind Waker 1 was about to scare players away, so they created a darker and much realistic game, which was to me the right decision. The Wind Palace in the sky, the one where the Uka live, an ancient race of birds with humanoid looking faces, might be a part of the old Wind Waker 2 game. These beings to me might be the most mysterious of any race I've seen in any Legend of Zelda game. As they are based on the painting of MC Escher called Another World, to me they are indeed from another world, as in, they are supposed to be angels. What is weird with the Uka is that there are multiple places in the sky over the centuries, and none is really explained very well. The Minish Cap has a wind palace guarded by the Minish Wind Tribe, but then we also have Skyloft from Skyward Sword, which is much older than the Wind Palace. Hyrule Historia states that the people of Skyloft eventually became the Uka, but if that is the case, then what happened to the Wind Palace? To me, the Wind Palace and Skyloft existed at the same time. The kid we find in Breath of the Wild mentioned something in the sky, and I believe this to be the Wind Palace. As I said in my previous videos, Vati is being represented as the owl in Breath of the Wild, as we can clearly see the resemblance on Vati's helmet in the Minish Cap manga, and not Zelda. It could also explain what happened to the Zonai and why they suddenly all vanished, as they went to the skies in search of a new home. Throughout the Minish Cap and Twilight Princess, we keep finding the same symbols over and over, and I think they're all connected to some way. Maybe this is why Twilight Princess might be the most confusing game when it comes down to the timeline, because it seems to have connections to all the timelines in some form. And at the end of the game, we finally defeat Ganondorf once and for all. Now most of you think that the undead Ganondorf for Breath of 2 is in fact the Twilight King. But I seem to feel more and more that this is not the case. And why do I feel this? Well, that's for a new video. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.